So, have you ever had that awkward conversation that happens every now and then with a potential client when they're trying to decide whether or not to hire you? And it's going well, you know it is. And they say something like, "This is so great. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it. I think I want to do this. I think I want to set up an appointment. I just need to double check really quick and make sure. Do you take my insurance?" If the answer is no, and you're not prepared, that's the moment when self doubt kicks up, the negative self talk starts roaring in your ears, your spirit just kind of sinks to the floor, and any kind of business strategy you've got just goes right out the window. I know it. I get it. Been there, done that. I want you to take heart because today I'm going to tell you exactly how to answer that question. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Wendy, and this is your money moment for today. This is where we talk about how to manage the money side of your private practice, which so often has to do with how we think about things as well as what we actually say and do in our business. And in our last few videos, if you've seen them, then you know I've been talking a lot about how to fine tune your referral setup so that you're getting the kind of referrals who are right for you from the beginning. We've talked about everything from setting up a system that will weed out folks who are not a natural fit for you, or how to fine tune your process so that you and your potential client together can decide what's the best decision for them, what's the best place for them. What we haven't talked about so much is that $64,000 question that I know is on your mind because you all tell me it is. And that is, Wendy, what do you say? What do you do when somebody asks you about insurance and you don't take it? Well, I totally understand how this can happen and what it feels like because it happens to me. It doesn't happen as often as it used to, but I am remembering a time about a year and a half ago when I had a woman come to see me who we'd done all of our setup work online. She had set up the session and paid for it in advance. We had never actually spoken live until the day she walked into my office. And we had a great consult. Her initial consult went great. And by the end of that first visit, I thought she totally is in the right place and I would love to work with her. And I said to her, I think this is a really good fit. I really would love to work with you. I think I can help you. How does it feel to you? And she smiled and she said, "This has been awesome today. I had no idea how helpful it would be. I wish I had gotten here sooner. I would love to work with you." And then she said, "But you don't take my insurance, do you?" Well, heck, she knew that. She knew that before she even got there. Okay. But she had to ask. She couldn't help herself. And I understood that. And you need to understand that too. And it doesn't really matter what kind of private practice you have. If you offer any kind of health related healing service, people are going to ask you if you take their insurance because, just in case, you never know. But if that's a little tricky for you, I don't want you to worry about it because I'm going to walk you through exactly what to do. And essentially what it is your response will have three parts to it. And you can remember those parts by the acronym SOS. I want you to stand in your value. I want you to own your offer. And I want you to remember to serve. We're going to talk about each one of those in detail. I don't want you to worry about taking any kind of notes. Don't worry about getting this all right. I just want you to hear me right now. And then I'm going to make this really easy for you today, folks. And I've got great news. I have created a little freebie, a little giveaway for you, where I have written a sample script that you can actually use to model off of and to practice doing this for yourself. Of course, you can adapt it to fit your particular situation. Don't worry about that. But it will be a great way for you to kind of lean into learning how to use this kind of language and how to say this for yourself. And eventually, you're not even going to need that, but it'll help you get off the ground. So I'll share more about that here in just a moment. But for now, let's take a closer look at each one of these points. Number one, stand in your value. What am I talking about that? Well, essentially, when somebody asks you, do you take my insurance? I want you to answer them straightforward, directly, clearly, with confidence and with a smile and without a hint of apology. Now, it is perfectly fine just to say, no, I don't actually, and just move on from there. But if you would like, you can offer a little bit of an explanation or some background to that if you want. That's fine. Just make sure that if you do that, you're doing it with the energy of informing and educating your client, not from a place of apology or trying to justify your decision. That's real important. That's a real fine line there, y'all. I want you to pay attention to that. So for example, if somebody says, I'd love to see you. Do you take my insurance? You might say something like, no, actually I don't. And here's why. Years ago, I had a full practice where I did actually take a lot of insurance. But what I began to realize is that they were paying me less than half of what I actually charge, and that those rates had not changed more than a dollar or two over 20 years. And I wouldn't stay with another employer that long who never gave me a raise, would you? That's what it was like on my end of that deal. Or you might say, I would take insurance if I can, but the kind of work I do, acupuncture, reflexology, whatever, has never been covered by insurance. And I wish it was. They just haven't caught on to how great this is. But unfortunately, we don't even have that option. But that's okay. I actually feel like you get more out of this anyway when you are investing in your own growth and development. So in the end, I kind of think it's kind of okay. Or you might say something like, I might make that decision later. At the moment, the level of licensure that I have doesn't allow me to bill for insurance. So I don't know where I'm going to do with that. I'll decide that later. But today I don't. I don't care how you say it. Just say it in a way that is in alignment with your values, that's true to who you are, and where, you just kind of own it and don't blink. Step two is that I want you to own your offer. And what I mean by that is you say something like, here's what the investment level is to work with me, or here's what the fee for a standard session with me would be, or here's what I charge for an initial consult. And then you can soften it a little bit. You can say something like, there are some ways we can make that. I realize that that might be a bit much. I mean, I realize that this is a big deal, this decision that you're making. And I respect that and I honor that. Um, there might be some ways we can make this a little bit more manageable. I do have some packages that I can tell you about where you might can save a little bit of money. Um, if you have a health savings account, sometimes that might help cover some of the cost. Or if you have an out of network benefit, sometimes that will help a little bit. And I'm happy to walk you through how that would work. You can say any of those kinds of things. Just make sure that you are clear that whatever they do, they still have to pay you. You can teach them, coach them, guide them through other ways to make it a little bit more manageable financially. But ultimately, they still have to pay you up front. All right. Okay. Very good. And then part three that I talked about was to focus on service. I say this all the time. I'm going to come back to it over and over again because it is such a core principle of how I believe we should be doing things. So here's what happens. You've said what you do. You've learned a little bit about them. You're clear that this is a good fit. You've now had the money conversation and you say, you've said like, this is what I charge. This is how it would work. And then you say, so would you like to make an appointment? And you wait. You invite them to do the work. And then you let them sit with it for a moment. This is really important, y'all. Pay attention to this. Let them sit with it for a moment because in that moment, What they're doing is they're wrestling with a decision inside, which is, am I worth this? Can I handle this? Is this money well spent? Should I do this for myself? But what you're what's going on for you, I bet, is, oh my gosh, is that too much? Oh my gosh, did I upset them? Oh my gosh, am I going to lose them? Oh my gosh, am I ever going to get another referral again? And so you might be very tempted to just jump in and say, I realize that's too much. I mean, if that's too much for you, we could probably talk about a discount. If that's too much for you, we could probably talk about a discount. When I get excited, I talk a little too fast. Have you noticed? I'm noticing. I've seen many of you make this mistake. You state a price, whatever the level is, and then you get nervous about their while they're thinking it over, and you jump in and drop it. Don't make that mistake, because in that moment you are robbing them of the opportunity to step up into a belief that they are worth spending this money to get the results that they need to get. Don't rob them of that moment. Okay. So what happens next? So let's say if they say yes, this one of two things is going to happen. One is that they're going to go, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. In which case, you just pull out your calendar and get them scheduled. Or they may hesitate for a moment and they may say something like, I don't know, that's a lot of money. Or I don't know, I might have to think about this. At which point, I want you to come from a place of abundance. And that's where you step into service. And I want you to say something like, absolutely, no problem. Would it help? I mean, if you'd like, I realize this may be a bit much. And if it is, and you can't do that, I'm happy to share with you some other names or see if I can come up with some other resources you might use. Would that be helpful to you? And y'all, when you do that, when it's clear you are not clinging, you're not begging, you're not pleading, you're not saying, please work with me. You're like, take it or leave it. There's some good stuff here. I would love to work with you. But if it's not if it's not going to work, that's fine. And I'm happy to help you find something else. When you do that, one of two things is going to happen. They may say, that would be great. Thank you. I'd really appreciate that. And they will go on, but they will remember you and that you weren't just about getting the money. You were about making sure they got what they needed. Or even more often, they will say, no, I don't want to do that. I really want to see you. This has been too good. I really want to see you. Great. Let's get you on the schedule. Do you see how this works? When you stand in your value without apology, you are leading and your energy is dominant and it is healthy and strong. When you own your offer, here's what I do, here's what the investment level would be, here's how that would work. Here are some things you can do to make it a little bit more manageable if money is really important or is really kind of a critical thing. Absolutely. And then when you focus on service, I'm happy to help you find somebody else if you can't do this. A lot of times they're going to stay with you, paying full fee out of pocket, and it's going to be fine. And they'll feel good about it, and so will you. This is good stuff, y'all. That's how you answer the question about how do you take my insurance, okay? Now, if all that's a little fuzzy to you and it feels a little overwhelming, I promise you that I had your back, and I do. And here's all you got to do. I have written a sample script for you, and I've created a little template, like a little cheat sheet, where you can write your own script. And I encourage you to do that. Read it out loud, practice it a few times, play with the language a little bit until it flows naturally for you, and then use it. Go do it. And you will find that it didn't take long before you don't need that anymore. Where you can get that is, I told you I would tell you, go to my website, wendypittsreeves.com. Depending upon where you're seeing this, you may already be there, but depending wherever you are, go to my website, wendypittsreeves.com/awkward. Awkward. So you can learn how not to have an awkward conversation. Okay, check that out. And if you love that, I would love to know, like, what's your biggest takeaway from this? Tell me that in the comments below. I'd love to hear how this is landing for you, where what you're doing with this, and what's your aha? What's your takeaway? Let me know. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you being here. Can't wait to hear where you go with this, and look forward to talking with you next time. Bye now.